Hey everyone, it is midnight connection time again, and I have a very special guest. I'm going to just get right to it.
Hi.
Hi everyone, this is Stephanie Berman, founder of the Aziza Project, and I was like, I want to make sure I get that right. So what I do on Midnight Connections is, I'm like all about promoting people and everything. And I don't care if you're a plumber or a lawyer, I'm just like promote something positive. But what is great is when someone's job is just positive in itself. Like, I don't even have to tell Stephanie, like, please come up with something like, something motivational, because what she does is amazing. It's her job, but she's a hero, like she's solving a problem, and we're going to talk about it, but for women and everything. And her job, in essence, is just something that is needed in the world and is really, really good. So now everyone's wondering what the heck I'm talking about. So, Stephanie, what is the Aziza Project?
So the Aziza Project is a nonprofit that offers hope to women who are suffering from complex gynecological problems by providing funding for them to see the doctors who have the knowledge and training to figure out what's going on.
Okay. And that seems like, like people are like, I want to feed the hungry. I want to like clothe people. That's like not the first go-to, I would think, that most people would think of. So how did this all come about?
Well, I woke up at 3:00 one morning and the idea kind of just started percolating from there. Now I just dropped you right in the middle of a much longer story because I woke up at 3:00 in the morning of a consultation with a doctor I was going to have in Oklahoma. I live in Washington State, and this doctor was in Oklahoma. So let me catch you up because, like I said, that was like 10 years down the road. So I've been suffering with gynecological pain myself for 12 to 15 years, depending on which pain generator you're talking about. Endometriosis, adenomyosis, been there, done that, got that t-shirt. And then, turns out I have an irritated nerve in my pelvis, but it took me a decade to find out.
Wow.
So it took me a decade and 12 providers, actually, because here's the thing is American health insurance will pay more for 4 15-minute appointments than they will for one 1-hour appointment. But you can't get to the bottom of a complex problem in 15 minutes. Right. So women who are having these complex problems end up being bounced from provider to provider to provider to provider because they just have 15 minutes to figure out what's going on, and you can't do that in 15 minutes with a complex problem. And the other side of that coin is that because American health insurance will pay more for those 4 15-minute appointments than they will for one 1-hour appointment, these doctors who have the knowledge and the desire and the expertise to solve these complex problems can't afford to keep their doors open and take insurance. So they end up being out of network, which I'm finding out recently that even if a doctor is out of network doesn't necessarily mean, or even if a doctor doesn't take insurance and you have out of network benefits, it doesn't necessarily mean that you can submit their bills for your out of network benefits, because the insurance company will get angry at the doctor for whatever they're charging, because they're like, you can't charge that much. Or something like that. I just recently found this out, and I'm not sure of all the details yet. So ask me next time.
Okay.
And so, but the problem is the doctors who, they can't afford to take insurance and keep their doors open because they need to spend longer with their patients, but the insurance companies won't pay them enough, which means they end up charging more than what we would be paying out of pocket, like through insurance to see them. And so it's like this huge catch-22. The doctors can't afford to keep their doors open, but the patients can't afford to see them. Right. And so the Aziza Project stands in the gap and says, this isn't okay.
Right.
And we are going to fund the care you need so you can get to the bottom of this problem. And we've only been in existence since January. We've only been fundraising really since April, and we've already funded our website, our branding package, like all of the back end stuff, plus $1,000 in medical care for 2 patients.
Well, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, women, one of the burning question I have is, like, I mean, I know everyone's talking about like menopause and stuff, but like they don't even have that figured out, and that's like a big advertised thing.
Right.
And us women, like, a guy will have a cough and he's dying, and we just like keep going and are in excruciating pain. So, how long, I mean, this is just advice, like, would you wait, or, like in pain, and, like, I just think a lot of women give up and they just accept it. And they're like, well, I'm just supposed to have, like, I feel like I'm being stabbed every day, and this is just my normal.
Yeah.
And I think women's tolerance is just extremely, extremely high. And so, like, at what point, if you're someone who's experiencing this kind of problem, what would be your advice? Is like, don't wait so long, or what steps to take? Because I think a lot of women are probably, like you told me, you just said it took you 10 years. Obviously, you were trying to get the answer, but I'm sure a lot of women are just giving up. Like, it's just meant to be this way.
Yeah. And I gave up for probably a good 5 years trying to find answers. Now, granted, I've seen a chiropractor that whole time, but he didn't really seem that interested in digging into the problem. And so it wasn't until after I had my hysterectomy in 2020 that this irritated nerve kind of rose to the surface. I don't know if you've ever had a situation where you've had multiple different types of pain, like you stub your toe and then 2 minutes later you bite the inside of your cheek. And so once you bite the inside of your cheek, your toe doesn't actually hurt that much anymore. That's kind of what happens, only the reverse. Once you deal with the toe, you start icing the toe, all of a sudden your mouth is going to start hurting a whole lot more. That's essentially what happened to me. Is once I had my hysterectomy and got the endometriosis taken care of and the adenomyosis, then this pinched nerve or irritated nerve in my pelvis became a much bigger issue. And so that's when I started researching, okay, what is this? What could it be? And so to answer your question about like how long should women wait, I'm like, don't wait. Because the longer you wait, the longer it's going to take you to find answers. Because like I said, it took me 12 providers to find out what was wrong with me. And if you're going to bounce through 12 providers, that takes a lot of time, because you have to, like, there might be, I don't know, not necessarily insurance waiting periods, but like referral waiting, if you get referred from a gynecologist to a pelvic pain clinic, they may be backed up 6 months or a year. Like my endometriosis specialist surgeon, I think, is booking out a year for surgeries. So, and that's a year longer that you would spend in pain once you've found the person who can solve your problem.
Right.
So I would say don't wait. And that's not necessarily something that the Aziza Project is here to fix, but I do want to, through all these interviews and podcasts I'm doing, get the word out to women to say, hey, don't wait. If you're having a problem, reach out to me. And, we're only working with one doctor right now, but I envision adding more providers to the network in the future. And I use the word network loosely, not in the same framework that insurance companies use it. I think I've settled on the term Aziza affiliated providers, actually, just to stay as far away from insurance verbiage as I can.
Right.
Because we're not insurance. We're simply here to say, hey, we have funds. Let us help you. If you have financial need, we will cover, this type of, this treatment or this amount of money so that you can get the help that you need from one of our doctors.
Right.
So yeah, just don't wait.
And it sounds like you have like a lot of resources too, because like maybe some people like don't even need to, like they just don't even know like to the steps to get help, even like through the normal channels. Like I understand the 15-minute, but
Yeah.
you know, there some people are very educated on the subject matter, and then some people are very still in the dark,
Hmm.
um, because it's your private areas and everyone's raised a different where area and stuff. So some people don't even just know like what you should be doing on a regular basis to take care of yourselves and self-care. So I'm sure like you're just even a good resource, and some people just don't have the information.
Yeah, and even based on symptoms, like I'm not a medical doctor. I have no medical training at all. All I know is about symptoms is based on what I've heard other medical professionals say, but I've been able to kind of pick up on, oh, if it's discharge, it might be yeast or it might be bacterial vaginosis. If it's itching, it might be a nerve issue or it could be like in sclerosis. And see, I'm throwing out all these terms that you've probably never even heard.
Right.
Um, and so, if somebody's having a gynecological problem that they haven't been able to get diagnosed yet, reach out to me and maybe together we can kind of do some brainstorming and see, can we figure out, what's the main symptom? And, oh, it's maybe this. And like I said, we're already working with one provider. He's down in Tulsa. And, I can always send a patient to them to say, hey, does this patient's symptoms fit your wheelhouse? Because he doesn't do everything in the gynecological sphere. He is specialized down into like specifically vulval vaginal stuff. So everything like pelvic floor and down, um, to the external, is his kind of jam. Um, so, if it sounds like the symptom like that, I would say, call them and see what they say. And if they say, well, that sounds more like this, then we know, okay, well, maybe maybe it is endometriosis. Having had endometriosis myself, it's a little easier for me to identify that one than some of these other gynecological conditions I haven't had. So there's
Right.
that too.
Well, we've talked a lot about, the patient and people getting educated and the need for that, but none of this is going to work without funding and everything. So I know fundraising is very, very important, and everyone like finds a certain cause like that are important. I know like my mom experienced a fire, and there's been, and then my grandmother, so anyway, fires are, so she's just a huge fire department giver because that's close to her heart. So I know there's a bunch of people out there that thankfully doesn't have this problem right now, but they can relate, and this issue is going to be close to their heart. So how can people help, and how do you get funding, and so that you can take care of more patients and everything, or help more women out there?
Yeah. So I will say that most of our donors have been people who have dealt with chronic pain in some form or fashion. Like, so exactly what you were saying, when you experience something, that tends to be where your dollars end up going towards. So if you know of anybody who's dealt with chronic pain, send them our way. Whether they need a doctor, whether they want to donate, whether they want to volunteer. But as far as donations specifically, we went a little bit of a unorthodox way about getting our nonprofit status, which we do have, through an organization in California called Visions Made Viable. They are a fiscal sponsor, so they have nonprofit status, and we are a project under them. So we do take donations on through PayPal. We have go to the website. There's a donate button there that'll take you to our PayPal page. And it does say at the top, Visions Made Viable, but it also says the Aziza Project. So the dollars officially go to Visions Made Viable, but then Visions Made Viable funnels all their dollars out to their projects.
Okay, that is great. So how big, you said you just started this, how big, where do you want to go with all this? I see dreams come true, dream big. What is your big dream?
I'm definitely dreaming big on this one. There are actually two other arms of the Aziza Project that I'm looking forward to getting up and running eventually. One is like a scholarship fund for medical students who want to become vulvovaginal specialists, because we need more of them. We also need a better variety of them. If you look out there, most of the vulvovaginal specialists out there are white men. Nothing against white men, there are a lot of them. But it would be really great to get some, like a Black female vulvovaginal specialist, an Asian vulvovaginal specialist, et cetera, because patients do better when they see a doctor that looks like them. And I don't mean that in a bad way at all. It's true. And I want patients to do the best they can. So I want our team of doctors to be representative of the cultural mosaic that is the United States and really the world, because that's why I chose the word Aziza. Aziza means beloved, precious, and mighty. And that's what our women are, whether or not they believe it. And so I can easily see this project going international at some point. There's an endometriosis specialist in Romania I would love to reach out to at some point and be like, hey, you want to join in? And see where that goes. So so funding for medical students is one arm that I see in the future. Another one would be funding for existing doctors to travel to these Aziza affiliated providers so they can learn what these conditions look like, so that they can go home to their primary care practices and be like, oh, I know what that is. That's lichen sclerosis. Here, go watch this other doctor on YouTube, and you can learn all sorts of things about, or not YouTube. I was thinking of Dr. Bab in Tulsa. He's on Instagram and TikTok. But that way these doctors can actually better identify these more rare conditions a little bit faster, even if they don't necessarily want to get the training on how to treat them. But as long as they can recognize them a little faster, that would be fantastic.
Well, you popped another question in my head while you were talking,
Okay.
which is, we talked prior to this like a week ago, and you were telling me a little bit about your story. And what I also found interesting to share is that of course, at some point, if you have a severe problem, you have to see a doctor face to face. But a lot of times, with the thanks to technology, like you can get Zoom and you can at least get consultations and see some of these people. So maybe you could describe how, because you keep saying it might not be in the state where you're at, but like, how does the access with Zoom and everything and consultations get you closer to where you need to be?
So, like I mentioned, the doctor that we're working with is in Tulsa, and he can see anyone anywhere in the world in a virtual context. As he can do these virtual consultations. He's got this HIPAA compliant platform that's very similar to Zoom, although I always get tripped up right at the beginning because there's not that audio lag on his platform like there is with Zoom. So he can do a consultation with anybody anywhere in the world, but he cannot diagnose or treat or prescribe during that virtual consultation. So it's much more kind of an education, or like he'll listen to your symptoms and say, well, it could be this, it could be that. One of the gals that the Aziza Project helped last spring was a pre-professional ballerina from Florida. And she was bleeding about triple what she should be. And, worried about, am I going to pass out in the middle of a show? Am I going to bleed through my products? Questions like that. And we got her a consultation with Dr. Bab, and he was able to give them some recommendations and things to Google to take to her primary care there in Florida. So he can do that. He can write up a list of recommendations for the person he's talking to take to their primary care to say, okay, let's run these tests. And then if that doctor wants to, they can do a phone call with Dr. Bab to talk about those results. So at that point, it's two doctors talking together and not doctor to a patient he hasn't seen. Now, on the other side of the coin, it might happen like what happened to me. I actually knew I was going to Tulsa even before my virtual consultation, because I sent Dr. Babb a 4-page, 10-point timeline of, and it was 4-page single space timeline of all of the diagnoses, all of the doctors I'd seen, like in order, all the treatments I tried, and sent it to him by email. Called the receptionist to say, did he get my email? He was already looking at it by the time I picked up the phone and called. And she came back on the phone. She put me on hold for about 2 minutes. Came back on the phone. She says, yeah, his response was something like, oh my goodness, yes, she needs to come to Tulsa. And so that's what I'm listening for as the founder of the Aziza Project. Whoops, there. Whenever we are sponsoring these virtual consultations, or sometimes we have a patient who can afford to fund their own virtual consultation, but they live in Ohio and they need help they would need travel help to get to Tulsa. We do that too. So I'm listening for him to say, yes, you need to come to Tulsa, in which case we take them to the next level of funding then, and we help them get to Tulsa. And then once they're in Tulsa, we help them with the doctor's fees. And then if we have money left over, we'll help them with the in-network, the patient responsibility portion. Because as it turns out, this was amazing to me, turned out the hospital that Dr. Babb does his procedures at in Tulsa was in-network for me, from southeastern Washington to Oklahoma. That was a huge shock for us. It was a huge shock for the doctor's office. And so it's possible that, if we help somebody from New York make their way to Oklahoma, the hospital might be a network for them. So that would be kind of the last tier of things that we'd pay for, just to make sure that our dollars go as far as possible.
Right. Well, and it's so nice because, there's bad apples everywhere, and the medical system and the red tape is just, we need ambassadors. Everyone needs help on any health condition. Like if you have any health problem, we're talking about this very specific thing, but just dealing with anything is a lot. And then if you have something seriously wrong, it's a lot. If you have nothing, if you have a cold, it's a lot just because of what they make you go through, let alone if you have a serious condition. But it is really great when you find doctors that are willing to work together and look at this from like what's best for the patient, not like this is my job and I'm just doing this and I'm just doing what medical insurance will cover. Because unfortunately, like even that takes it sounds like this doctor you keep talking about is an amazing person, because honestly, a lot of doctors aren't like that. Like the fact that he says, I'll work with your doctor, and I wish every doctor or was like that. And just creating a directory of what maybe nice doctors play well together doctors, we need like a network of that. We can't use that word network, but that's just huge to get the good ones talking and like, I don't care, I will work with your patients, because one man can't accomplish everything. So we need a lot more of these doctors communicating with each other. That's like half the problem with the healthcare system. I'm getting sidetracked, but when here we talk about everything. Can I just tell you my medical gripe?
Sure.
Why is it that I understand I got to fill out a survey form before I go to the doctors, right? So just to make my process more faster. So they're like, you have to do this before you check in. So I'm doing this at home. Then I go there. Then in the waiting room, they give me a tablet. I have to answer the same questions again. Didn't I just do this before I got here? Then I go into the doctor's office and then they have another tablet. And then I say all the time, didn't I just answer these questions twice? And they're like, oh, but this is a different system. And we got to put this information in this system. Yeah. So now in one doctor's visits, I've answered the same questions 3 times. None of this speeded up the process. And then when I go back there 6 months from now, I'm going to go through the same routine. Did anyone store my answers? Like, shouldn't you know by now? So if it's this much of a problem just for them to collect the data. There's not even one system it's all going into.
Yeah.
So this
Well,
is, yeah.
personally, I'm not sure I would want all of it going into one like nationwide system. But even within the same office, yes, I agree with you. You would think they would want their systems linked enough that they could do that. So I would say that's probably a red flag for a doctor's office that isn't going to be very helpful. Um, I would say, so going back to your question about, getting help and how long we should wait and stuff like that, find out if you're having a problem now, find out if your doctor is going to be a team player. That's probably step one.
Yeah.
If your doctor is not going to be a team player, fire them and find a new one.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
no bones about saying that. I was just having a conversation on Facebook this morning with somebody who, because my husband had a negative billing experience at his last doctor's appointment for a family doctor. And we were like, this isn't okay. Like, we don't understand why we got charged triple what we were expecting. And so somebody actually, I posted on Facebook a question and I said, well, actually, that's the office I'm talking about. That we had this problem. That's why we're looking for a new doctor. And she's involved in that clinic somehow, not quite the clinic manager, but she works there. And I said, this is what we experienced. I ended up DMing her and I'm like, this is what happened. I don't know why we were double charged or really triple charged when it came down to dollars. And so she's actually going to look into it for us to see if she can either explain better why we were charged triple or fix it. So,
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's just so much. And when you are in excruciating pain, this is why you need, like if you're old, you need an advocate. If you're a child, you need an advocate. And if you're going through serious pain, you can be young, but
mhm.
if you're not thinking straight when you're
Yeah.
in serious pain. So
Yeah.
you need an advocate to assist you. So besides connecting with you, I mean, that's just another piece of advice is that, reach out to your friend or, a parent. Some people are close to their family. Some people, if you're not close to your family, or your best friend or something, and let them be the go-between because you're dealing with people who have extreme issues. Like
Mhm.
they have extreme pain and they might not even be capable, and you should always get an advocate, for yourself, to help you through this because
Yeah.
sometimes you're not thinking straight.
One of the most fun things I've experienced this year is I actually got to sit in on a virtual consultation with our doctor in Tulsa with a gal that I met. She's in North Carolina, I think. She was super nervous about her virtual consultation. And I'm like, do you want, like, you can call me and have me on speakerphone the whole time if you want. And she's like, can I really? So I did. It was so much fun. Plus, this doctor, if you follow him on Instagram, it's just amazing the stuff that he knows. And so to be able to listen to somebody get to pick his brain for like half an hour was amazing. So I'm willing to do that too. If somebody's like, hey, yeah, I have this virtual consultation with this doctor coming up. I'm not really sure what to expect. Can you just like come and sit on the phone with me? Like, sure. Yeah, I can do that.
Well, that's why I said you are an angel. And you don't need to tell me some positive thing out of thin air. What you are doing is tremendously positive. You're an inspiration, and it's just so nice that one of my very first streams, because last year New Year's Eve my resolution was to stream every day, but it was raining, and I said, when life gives you lemons, you make lemonade, and that's what happened, with you. You made lemonade, and your dreams are going to come true because I do believe in karma and things coming back to you tenfold. So it's been a pleasure meeting you. Thank you for sharing this, and then like my audience is so varied, and this is not one of your typical midnight connections, but I know I have a lot of women followers, and you never know where the message is going to hit. And you know what I also say, because of I'm in social media, and everything is always so happy. And I always say, like, things aren't always as they appear.
No.
And there are people in pain, and especially with some of these issues, and that's what I'm saying. Women are so strong, and they just bury and don't deal with and you think they're fine.
Yeah.
And there's an acronym what fine means, which I'm not going to share. But anyway, they're not fine.
No.
So I'm hoping that some woman, share this, and it's once you do something out there, it's live forever. So even if someone watches this later, I hope someone who needs this help sees it and everything and
Mhm.
reaches out to you. And I thank you for everything that you do and everything. And it was great having you on, and I'm wishing you tons of luck and tons of prayers for everyone that sees you, because I just wish we were all healthy.
I know, me too. I know. In the meantime, if you want to help people get healthy, go to my website. There's a big
Yes.
green donate button in the corner. You can make a donation. You can get in touch with me there. We have a contact form on the website. The link to our doctor is there too. You can go straight to his website from ours. I won't bother telling you the URL now because it'll be too fast. You won't be able to write it down in time. There's our website. Scrolling down at the bottom, just contact me, donate, volunteer, whatever you want to do.
Yes, and it's in the description as well. So thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks so much.